Tonight, our guest is somebody who's been in the space. You probably all know him. I got exposed to jonCates. That sounded a little dirty when I said it that way. I got introduced to jonCates with horse trading, and it was Texadelic who got me into got us into the horse trading, and that's where he kept saying jonCates, 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 and I'm like, who's jonCates? And then I got a horse from jonCates, and I'm like, oh, so this is jonCates, a really amazing glitch artist that's created a whole genre, and an interesting genre at that. It is glitch western, not western glitch, glitch western. I figured that out. You can't say it both ways. So I'd like to
It's not western glitch. It's glitch western.
Western. I'm pretty sure
because that's my first question.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do it. John, if you want to unmute yourself, please come on up to the stage.
Hey, y'all. Good to be here with you.
Hey. So right off the bat, we're just going to hit you with that question. Is it Western glitch or glitch western?
It's glitch western. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it the one way and not the other?
Good question. The glitch goes first because we got to think about the glitch first. Yeah.
It's all about the glitch.
Is that just so that we can like loop it in with the greater genre of glitch? Is that more the thought process there?
Yeah, mayhaps it might be that. I think. I mean, if you really want to know, so in the Western genre, like there's different types of Westerns, and usually those types of Westerns, like movies, cinema, they have names like revisionist Western or classic Western or like weird Western. So when I came up with this idea, that's the framework I was working with.
Okay. Spaghetti Western.
Yeah.
There's all the Italian movies.
Western.
Yeah. Okay. So the Western's second. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So Western, right, because it tells you something special is about to happen to the Western. And in my case, it tells you that glitches are about to happen to the Western.
Shit's about to get glitchy. That horse is going to get all funky.
So did as far as you know, did you create the glitch Western genre?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's my idea. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have been inspired and influenced by many, many different artists and artworks and types of art. So, yeah, I can like cite sources for people who inspire me. But yeah, certainly that idea, the glitch Western, is this idea that I came up with for like how I should focus my energy.
And the reason that I kind of figured that it was glitch Western or not Western glitch is because as I was thinking about it over this past week, it's like, well, it's like every time I said it in my head as Western glitch, it just seems it's more like the Europeans or, the glitch artists. The glitch artists in Europe are going, oh no, that's Western glitch. That's from North America.
Right? Yeah. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also, because like when you put a geography first, you're telling people that they should think about that region, or like that it's something special from that region. Like that is the region's hallmark, or like tells you something unique about that.
Akin to saying like Eastern medicine versus Western medicine. Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
I'm with you now.
Right.
I'm totally with you now. All right.
Yeah. And, like where I am, I'm in Taiwan. I'm in the nation of Taiwan. So for me, the night train runs in the morning. And I'm speaking to y'all from this island nation of Taiwan, where when you say things like Eastern medicine, you like when a Westerner says Eastern medicine, you referring to something, but it doesn't really exist the way that you think it does,
Interesting. That's crazy that we don't know from not exploring other parts of the world or living in them.
I mean, that's just our North American privilege, though.
Yeah.
Well,
we just
so
say
much.
things that only exist to us.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody actually does that. All over the world, people, they have their own experiences, and people are like living in their own experiences wherever you are in the world. So it's pretty difficult for people to actually imagine, other people's experiences, and that's why we kind of tend to talk that way. It's not just like a North American thing. People blame like North Americans or Westerners, like maybe blame themselves, which is sometimes like appropriate and accurate, but also like people just do that kind of all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. Believe
Mm.
that. So you are coming to us from the future, right? It is,
Yeah,
Wednesday.
yeah. It's a funny place.
Yeah. I really like that. Every time we're booking folks and then we get into the hole, we find out where somebody's from. And then like you and I kind of went back and forth a couple of times. It's like, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
at 9 p.m. and you're like, okay, so Wednesday at, at 9 a.m., right? Like you have to always do that
Mm-hmm.
thing that we know we're talking on the same, because we have a lot of Indonesian artists, which is the same thing. And we've talked to
Mm-hmm.
Australian folks, and it's like, it's so funny because it's a normal thing, but it like
Mm-hmm.
some second to wrap your head around it and go, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's good to know that the world is still there tomorrow. I mean, that's good.
yeah. It's still here. It's doing something.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Right off the bat, thank you very much for taking time out of your morning to hang out with us and come and chat with us. Really do appreciate that.
I
Um,
love it.
so I'm just going to start off with, well, the Taiwan. What brought you to Taiwan? Have you always lived in Taiwan? Were you born in Taiwan, or you moved yourself to?
No, yeah, nah, not at all. Like my family's from Kentucky, and I spent most of my life building my like career in art academia in Chicago. So most of my life I spent living in Chicago, and then more recently, like within the last 3 or 4 years, moved here to the nation of Taiwan.
What was the big push for that?
Yeah, folks ask me that, and I, I think that maybe the best way to think of it is that we came here in search of, like, I came here in search of Gold Mountain. And Gold Mountain is an idea that people from this part of the world had in the 1800s when they left this part of the world and went to what is now the nation state of United States, and sort of specifically when they went to the part of the world that we call California. So actually, around here, this phrase "Gold Mountain" or Jinshan is also still the name of San Francisco. So when you say San Francisco here in Taiwan, you say Lao Jinshan, which means Old Gold Mountain. So yeah, I think I came here in a kind of reverse time travel, looking for Gold Mountain.
Interesting. Well, that's pretty cool. I've never heard that before in my life. That's
Mm-hmm.
very
I
cool.
never knew San Francisco was called Gold Mountain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah. There's a cool show on Netflix. I don't know if it's in the States or not, but it's called Warrior, and yeah, it's based on the writings of Bruce Lee. So it's a western from a different perspective, from Bruce Lee's perspective. So it's like a kung fu western. And this you hear people say Gold Mountain, sometimes in that show.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to check it out. It's definitely in the U.S. because I've seen it on my feed.
Yeah, check it out. I like that. I like that show a lot.
Making notes. Got to start watching stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you were into the art thing before you moved there. So we're just gonna kind
Yeah.
of go back and get a little bit of a background. So were you an artistic? I mean, we all know that kids, give them crayons and stuff like that, that they draw and they do things and they bring them home to parents and they put it on the fridge. So like when you were in
Yeah.
school, that were you an artistic person most of your younger life?
Yeah. I think my mom really raised me up that way, like for that to be how I thought about the world, like think about the world the way an artist thinks about the world. and approach the world that way. And then my dad raised me up more from like a music perspective because he was a musician and my mom like a writer and artist. So yeah, that was like the home environment, very creative and yeah, just super imaginative and kind of pursue your dreams that way, but also like reshape the world that way through your imagination. Like imagine a better world or a different world.
That's cool. We've had every time we have somebody on, there's always those different ways of growing up. Where actually, I would say probably the majority of artists that we've spoken to, their parents would always be like, no, art isn't a real job. You know, you should go be
Yeah.
something else. And then you get the other side of it where you do get the parents that, push the children towards the artistic way, which is what you had, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. And I grew up in like some real Americana. Like the town was 10 houses, and among those 10 houses there wasn't even a church. It's a crossroads, and there's a schoolhouse and a post office and literally a general store. And I used to go to the general store to get my piano lessons when I was a kid. Like a like from a Western, kind of classic Western movie, like that kind of world. It is the 1970s because I was born in 73. So it's not like the 1870s, but it's the 1970s. And it was this real special kind of culture that I don't think exists anymore.
No, I'm sure it doesn't. Now, Walmart probably exists there now.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I mean, no, nothing. I mean, it's just more like, nothing really. Yeah.
It's interesting. A small little town where there wasn't even a church. Like that's kind of a wild thought.
It is, yeah, because you'd have to go out of town to go to the churches, and kind of similar to how it is in Europe. Because I lived in Austria when I went to grad school, and so like actually in Austria, this is a rule. Like the churches literally, because they're mostly Catholic, and so they maintain this specific kind of distance, literal physical distance from one another, to maintain like their difference. So I remember when I grew up, like the churches, you had to go out of town to get to one. And they all were kind of approximately the same distance in different directions.
Sounds like Bass Pro Shops. They do
Yeah.
the same. They do the same thing. They're like, no, we're not getting any closer than 500 miles from each other, but we want to be
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
exactly 500 miles from each other.
That's right. That's right. There's math to how you cut up your customer base.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Unless
Mm-hmm.
unless it's liquor stores. Here it's like liquor stores. They're like, oh, you want to open up at the other end of the building? Yeah, give her, man. No
Yeah,
worries.
exactly. That's a different thing. Everybody, hey, gang up, everybody together.
We'll get them as long as they can crawl to one of us.
Uh-huh.
So when you were doing artistic stuff when you were younger, and you also
Yeah.
and you said you did mention that you did studies in art as well too, right? Like going to school,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. It's always been my focus.
right? For sure. Okay, cool. What sort of stuff were you doing back then? I mean, obviously it wasn't digital back in the day.
Mm. It was actually real
Oh,
quickly. Yeah, because my dad, but we didn't have money. My family doesn't. I don't come from money, but they were teachers. And my dad was a music teacher. And so when Commodore 64 came out, the computer, he was
yeah.
super excited. Yeah, he was super excited about this computer because it could do. It had a polyphonic sound chip, so it could do audio synthesis that other computers, home computers. This is like the first generation of home computers, and that one was real good at music. So he bought that computer, and that was a big deal for our family because that was a very expensive purchase. And then that became like a kind of central part of my life, and I really imagined, like this is a place, the computer is a place where everything can come together. Like games, music, art, programming, reading, writing, like just all these creative activities can all happen on the computer. And so computer for me, or compute powers, have always been a place where all these different forms of art can be brought together. And also they can become each other. They can be transformed from one to the other. And it's super amazing. Now we live in a world now, literally, where we take all of this for granted, because people born, today, or people born in the 21st century, they have just always had this reality. But for those of us a little older who grew up in like late analog era and then experienced this turn of the 21st century, like, very powerful life experience.
Yeah, for real. My family got a VIC-20. We couldn't afford the Commodore 64,
Yeah.
but we had to have the Commodore VIC-20, which was the lower end one. But
Yeah.
I had very similar experience, back in 1984 or 5, I think, was when we got that.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And I remember I used to go to the library. My mom would take me to the public library so I could get computer magazine.
Computer time.
Was
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It would always have in the back, you would always be able to do like make the little games and stuff where you could like program it all yourself and
Yeah.
base.
That was rad. That was rad. Yeah. These were like, we should explain this a little bit for folks who have no idea what we're talking about. But there were these physical magazines.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, there were these pieces of paper and they were bound together. So they were called magazines. It's a physical thing. And you go and you can buy it, or you can go to a library and you can read it. And it was published and distributed around the world. And so like on these pages of paper, there were the computer programs and computer art and computer games and all computer culture kind of, it's like, imagine internet or some cool, platform that you're all about today, like Web3 platform, but it's on paper and it's written down. And so, so like you see cool things and inspiring things. And I remember I saw like pixel art, the stuff we now call pixel art, but back then it's called like high resolution computer graphics. And it's like skulls and stuff. And I'm, a kid, I'm just like, yes, this is the world that I want to live in forever. And you had to also like, you could go take this magazine and sit down at your own computer. And then you had to open the magazine to the page where the software is written down. And you had to rewrite the software exactly like line by line, like don't make any mistakes, because if you make any mistake, you break the software.
And you can't copy paste.
There's no such thing. No, I mean there is on the computer. Yeah, but not. But yeah, because like this is before everything is digital. This is during late analog era where there's still a lot of physical analog experiences that people identify with, and now we identify with all of these digital experiences. Like we're all here together right now, and this is enabled entirely by digital technologies, and mediated, and it's real life. This is real life. I'm really living this real life with you right now, and all the folks who are here. And then later people will also have real lives when they really experience the recording, but it's mediated through these digital systems. And back in this world that we're describing, there was more of a bridge between physical stuff and digital experiences, with a heavy influence from the physical stuff, like trains, for instance.
Sure. Did you guys have the big 5 1/4 floppy drive, or did you do the cassette tapes for saving data?
Yeah, my dad, I mean, I'm kind of a lot like him. He kind of went all in on C64, and it was economically challenging for us, but he was like, this is important. You have to learn this. So yeah, we had the big floppies, and we had he got like the 2 drive system, so you could copy one floppy to the other floppy, copy that floppy. And then additionally, this is a story that I like to tell folks about how I got into glitch and noise. because also he had the other alternative storage, which was the cassette tape storage. Remember that one?
Oh yeah, that's all I had. We couldn't afford the floppy drives. All I had was the cassette storage.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That was the first one we got, was a cassette tape. And the cassette tape, like I said, he really went all in. He was just like, we have to have all this stuff and you have to learn all this stuff because it's the future, And so compute was also the future for me when I was a kid. Like my dad taught me, this is the future. You have to learn the future. This is it. And so the cassette drive, this is wild. People really need to think about this. So there were audio tape cassettes, and that's one way that we listened to music or recorded music or made recordings of like what we're doing right now. Like talking to each other. Maybe we would use a cassette tape in the 1970s. So then in the 80s, the Commodore 64 uses this cassette tape to store software, games, computer art, like anything you can make, read, or write with the C64, you can store on the cassette tape, which is exactly the same cassette tape that you would like listen to music on in the 1980s. So that was this moment I had where I was like, I'm gonna listen to software, and I would listen to software a lot in my room on my boombox, and I loved it. It was like kind of what you would, yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Sound like a modem connecting? Like
It's more, yeah,
or different.
it's different. It's like you would now call it noise music, and it's not exactly harsh noise music, but it's in that direction. It's like almost digital harsh noise music.
Oh my!
Yeah, I never had a cassette drive like that. So I've definitely never listened to software. That's a new one for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, we did have the 5.5s. I still have. That's kind of one thing I wish I still had, was like some old games stored on
Mm-hmm.
5.5. I
Mm-hmm.
still have some that are on 3.5 or 3.25 floppy,
Mm-hmm.
which was actually stiffer. Like I
Yeah.
still have like a version of like AutoCAD
Mm-hmm.
1 or something on floppy disk. It's
Yeah.
like 47 floppy disk or something. Too crazy.
Oh man!
Yeah.
I am like listening to you talk about all this. I'm smiling ear to ear. I am just like giddy as fuck. I finally
Yeah.
who took one of those tapes and stuck it in their boom box and was listening to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, what the hell, right? Like, let's try it out. And I put it in. I remember my mom just go, "What is that? What is that?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, it's the computer." She's like, "Oh my god!" But of course, my mom would
Mm-hmm.
never tell me to stop, because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the whole basic thing of the computer was it was bought for me, right? Because my mom always, every parent's always like, "Oh, he's so smart," and we gotta, nurture it. And it's like my mom's like, "Nah, this kid knows things." Like even when I used to get those magazines, and then sit down there for endless hours typing in line after line after line of code, and then like 'cause
Mm-hmm.
you get it done, right? Like if you want to do these things, you had to get it done because you always had to bring the magazine back to the library, in whatever
Mm-hmm.
that amount of time it was, and then I would
Mm-hmm.
go to run the program, and then I'd be pissed off because there'd be something wrong. So you'd have to go through every single, realize that you didn't put a comma or something somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you put those tapes in just like I did, that, I mean, I'm sure a million people did it back then, but
Yeah.
I remember that. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing like different programs I mean, they've got to have their own signature sound too, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like theoretically you could be able to tell the programs apart by the sound. Am
Yeah.
I
I
wrong?
mean, sure, I guess. I guess some folks might be like super hardcore enough to do that. But yeah, but generally like it's just we don't process the data that way, and it sounds like static and some high pitches and some mid-range, not a lot of bass. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just like the technology. From what I know of the technology of a cassette tape, right? So
Mm.
a vinyl basically records like the waveform. So it's the vibration of the waveform, right? But a cassette tape is essentially ones and zeros. It's like if you lined up a bunch of magnets and you flip the poles back and forth, right? Each line in there, you've got a north and a south, and that's what record it and read it was essentially a quick magnet system that flips them back and forth, a series of ones and zeros. So, I mean, storing data that way is would be essentially the same, obviously, and then listening to it would just be a different way of reading those ones and zeros. So, but it should read them the same every time.
Yeah, except that the physical cassette, and the reason why, like, my dad was real concerned every time I would do this because it's a physical object, like it's in the physical world with us, and that means it's influenced and affected by everything in the physical world, just like we are. So it gets dirty and it gets wet and it can melt if it's too hot. So when you move it around, like, you can also damage the data that way.
Yeah, of course.
I do remember we had, when they bought the VIC-20, we had one cassette tape that we could, and people, this is what it would literally say. It would be like the computer would literally say, "Do you want to save?" And you'd be like, "Yeah," and then it'd be like, "Press record on the cassette tape," and then that's what you would have. Fucking loved it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, love it, love that.
But I only.
So I think the burning question here that people are probably screaming at us for is have you ever, do you still have any of those, and have you ever tried to use any of that in your art today?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And I have for sure. Sometimes I also make music, noise music, glitch music. And sometimes, in my art, there's music that I, created. And sometimes in that music, there is software, there is data that you're hearing. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Somebody in the audience.
Yeah.
Somebody in the audience is going, "Fuck, man! I swear that's that Pong game I used to play." Oh,
well, that would be different from actual game audio.
No, I was saying
which is still very 8-bit. Right.
Program. I was saying at the program side of it, they'd be out there, they'd be listening to those glitches and beeps and going, "What?" Jesus, that's amazing. Cool. So from that, how did you start just creating this stuff? Was it was right from that when you were using the Commodore, or did you
Yeah, I mean, I think the earliest glitch artwork that I made that's actual finished artwork and has been shown places is from 1999. So that artwork is kind of definitively glitch art, very much so. Before that, I was working in the direction, but I think 99 is when I really got there and got to the place that I still live at and started to create the world that I still live in.
Cool. Maybe this is a question you can, it's a question I've never asked any of our other glitch artists. When did glitch art become a genre? Has it always been pretty much since the Commodore 64s came out?
Yeah, so this is a real cool story. And of course, with any histories like HYSTORIES, there's stories in histories, and those histories have their own stories that people story tell. So I guess I want to begin, whenever I talk about something like this, I always want to begin by reminding everyone that there are always many different stories to be told about where we come from and how we got to the places that we're at today. at the same time, some of those stories are told, and some of those stories are untold or less told for different reasons, lots of different reasons. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes accidentally. Kind of accidents of history. So what I do when I teach this, and that is what I did do for like 25 years, was focus on teaching art in art academia. I feel like it's real important for us to look at histories of glitch histories that show us early glitch art, like the art made by Jamie Faye Fenton when she made this digital art piece, which is called Digital TV Dinner. And that many people really understand that artwork as the first, at least digital glitch artwork. And many people understand that as just the first glitch artwork, because when she made it, she intended to do it that way. And she but I'm referring to like this moment when she was working in 1978 in Chicago. And she is an expert in the computer systems that she was creating at that time. So, like, she was glitching computer hardware and software on purpose. So, a lot of people look at her artwork from 1978 as like the first glitch artwork for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Wow, way back then.
Yeah.
That's wild. That blows my mind.
Yeah, and she responded to my posts about the space on X, and she wanted people to know that she's also a big time model train fan of all the different model trains, and she's actually been a big time model train fan from back in the day in the 1970s when she was making the first glitch art.
Oh, wild. That's fucking
Yeah,
special.
yeah.
Smiling. My face is going to hurt after this space. I can feel it. I'm smiling way too much. I'm smiling way too
Yeah.
much.
I
Yeah.
do a lot of work with her. Like, so I have academic publishing and scholarship and research into this moment in the 1970s, and have done interviews with her, and those are out there on internet if people are interested.
Super cool. Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, the older computer technology, television technology, and all of that stuff, just the mess ups that would happen to it really lends itself to glitch, right? Like, I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
renting a video in 1983. You could experience
Mm-hmm.
that. But knowing that somebody that was bending and twisting this stuff
Mm-hmm.
on purpose, even
Mm-hmm.
for the 80s, is that's mind blowing. That's really
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Yeah, and as an expert, like, she is someone who understands the hardware at a hardware level, like, and the software at a code level. And so she understood what she was doing, and she was doing it on purpose to make it behave that way.
That's beautiful. That's
Mm-hmm.
totally beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining, kind of get into more modern stuff, like with what you're doing. So with what you're
Yeah.
doing, do you use a lot of like old school analog stuff to do your glitching, or are you using a lot of programs, or obviously a mishmash of everything?
Right. Yeah. I mean, so I'm technology agnostic, and that's yeah. I'm not like dedicated to any specific type of technology, but
Sure.
more. Yeah. So what that means is I come from this perspective as an artist where you have ideas and you are trying to express them as best you can. So what that means is, like, some ideas you have, it turns out, oh, that's a movie, or it turns out, oh, that's a video game, or it turns out like, oh, that's a song, you know. So it's just more like I'm pursuing these ideas, and whatever way is best for that idea, you have to like listen to what the idea tells you and then kind of follow the idea.
Yeah. No, I dig that. I dig that. So it's just whatever means that there is your
different
Yeah.
tools have different purposes.
Yeah. Now, okay, with that said, the fact is that I was like I said, art educator for a very long time. So I think about that a lot because I also taught people how to do things in many different ways. And especially when you're a young person, like when you go to school, if you're a young person going to school, learning all this for the first time, then it's really influential. Like whatever it is you learn, how to do things, it kind of shapes how you imagine it can be done or should be done. So we have to reflect on that. To put it politely, like to put it nicely, yeah, we have to reflect on how we learn and what we learn because that really shapes what we think we can do. And when you learn a system or technology, a tool, like when you learn anything real well, that really becomes, a go-to, like how you solve problems.
Sure. Yeah. It's kind of that thing where, a couple of artists could be talking together and like, oh yeah, you do great stuff. You do great stuff. That's amazing. How do you do yours? And then they pull out like all this equipment and this is my room full of stuff and this is how I do this. And then the other person's like, oh shit, really? Because I
Mm-hmm.
zap, right? Like that's kind of what you're right. Like there's all these
Mm-hmm.
tools. It could be so different, and it's just whatever means you got, as long as you come up to the ends that you want. Does
Kinda, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, okay, with all that said, then there's like another part of it, which is that these are all different and like they all have their own glitches. For instance, like all these different technologies have their own specific glitches. So you can kind of get real into a certain direction and get real hardcore and go real far in that certain specific direction. And then that does require you to really learn about how something works from the ground up or as low as you can go to really know what is possible. So yeah, it's just like when you do that, you have to be careful again because you want to be conscientious and intentional and reflect on it a little bit so you don't kind of get lost. Like in the worlds that we live in of digital art and technologies, like some people are just super about the technologies. They're technologists, that's what drives them. And so when you're driven by a love of technology, that can drive you down a specific direction real far and real deep.
Hmm. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're wondering how you got there.
Yeah, but you might also be like super good at something, and that's awesome. It's just that that what you get super good at does become a way that you solve problems. It's an old saying, right? But like when you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and so we just tend to imagine the solution based on the what we know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. Folks, we are listening to jonCates. You are listening to The Night Train. Our guest is jonCates. I hope you're enjoying it so far. Just had to do a little bit of a room reset here because I'm smiling and I need to get my smile off my face for a second.
Well, I didn't know a conversation about glitch Western art was going to turn into philosophy.
Hey?
I'm all for it,
Yeah.
though. I'm all for it. I love it.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all.
I'm
Yeah.
like, wow.
Oh, please don't.
No, don't be sorry. By all means.
No, we have you on yes, you're our guest and we want to talk about and what direction you take down is where we want to be. It's the important thing. For sure. Just while here, if everybody wouldn't mind giving the room another little bit of a retweet out there for the folks that want to jump in here because they might be missing something important. And I wanted to say hi to all of you. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is a really great space. I'm enjoying this so damn much. So yeah, let's skip a little bit to the. So you do live performances, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Recently, just did a big one at a museum here in Taipei, in Taiwan. museum called the Digital Art Center, and that was the premiere performance for me here in Taiwan. That was real recent.
Right. Cool. And so what does that encompass? What are I mean, obviously.
Yeah. So, also, like, if there's any troubles, with audio or anything, just please do let me know. Okay.
Yeah. No worries.
Okay. Cool. Because I'll try to keep the DMs open over here so I can see if anything weird goes down. But yeah, so I also referred to this earlier about being a noise musician or making noise music, making glitch music has always, like I said, my dad was a musician and raised me up that way to think of the world that way. So I really do feel like that and process the world that way, which means that for me, doing live events, live performances is a form of music and involves all of the glitch art that we know and love from crypto art and digital art from Web3, and also involves the way that someone would play a show as a musician.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So is a lot of the is does each thing go hand in hand? Like, does your audio affect the glitching that's happening and the visuals that are happening, or is it all pre-done?
Yeah. Okay. So this is like real delicate balance, and it's a question. It's a nuanced question. Um, people. Okay. People want to know when you do a live performance or you play with you're there. Let's say you come to my show. I'll just describe it this way. You come to my show and I have a table set up in front of me, and there's all types of different technologies on the table: analog technologies, digital technologies, little weird machines that are hand built weird machines by artists, not by me because I don't build little machines, but other people do, and I use those, buy them, use them. And also computers, like different types of compute powers on the table. And so I'm using the table in a way where it's intentional, that it's glitchy and noisy, and people don't quite know what is happening. And I'm also using a microphone. And something that y'all will love is that around here somewhere, I've got like a couple train whistles. Like I have these wooden train whistles, and so I have like these different techniques to use microphones in my voice and sounds that are happening. And when you do that, when people can see that you're doing something like, blow a train whistle, but it comes out sounding all weird, but they can also hear that you're actually blowing a little wooden train whistle. That makes people understand. It makes them feel like, oh, this is actually happening right now. Like this is actually, I can hear it. It's occurring. It's a real life experience. Whereas, like, sometimes folks will see compute powers and people on a computer, and they won't know, like, okay, what's doing what, or has that all been prepared in advance, or is that happening in real time? So I go back and forth. Like I have all these different elements, and some things are prepared, but I'm changing them in real time. And other things, it's like microphones and you can see me doing things. And that lets people know that it's like an actual human performance.
Yeah. Cool. I would love to see that. That would be so dope as fuck. And I am that kind of a person. Like I'm all about when I'm at any concert or show or a play or anything like that. I even if it's somebody, even if it's a band that I've just been dying to see or whatever, I'm always watching everything like that. Like I'm always watching performers or, guys that are just off the stage or something. And I'm always watching to figure out how things are being done and where the sounds are coming from. That really, what you were talking about there, dig that. Like I would be watching you with like eagle eyes and going, holy shit, like he did that. That sound came, I can't even believe that was a train whistle, right? Like it would very, very much into that sort of stuff, the technical sides of it and how things are being done. So that's
Yeah, and I'll tell y'all a little secret about this because I feel like y'all might appreciate this. But when I do this, for instance, I did this once in Chicago. I did it a lot in Chicago. This was like a thing I was doing all the time. But there was one show that I played. It was a solo show of mine at a gallery. And I was real careful. I planned this really carefully in advance so that it would be very messy and a lot of things would happen in real time. Like people would see, oh, wow, weird, like noisy, glitchy, messy stuff is happening. But then other parts were like real controlled and real specific. This is like kind of the love-hate relationship I'm trying to strike all the time with push things to the point where they break, and you can sort of see it going towards that, and then you feel a little bit like, oh no, like what's going to happen, right? And then kind of pull it back and maybe go in a different direction or something like that. But this one performance that I'm thinking of, I did this, and the whole time I had this metal skull on the table with facing the people, and the metal skull is just sitting on the table the whole time. Don't do anything with the metal skull; it's just staring at the people. And then at the very last moment of the performance, I touch the metal skull, and that's when the performance stops. Like that's when the noise like just stops. And I touch the skull, and then everything like just stops. So the reason that I did it that way was to really give people the feeling that something had come from the skull.
Right. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
It happened with the skull. Like if you,
it's
like,
so you had the skull rig as like a dead man switch?
No,
well,
there's nothing.
The opposite,
no,
right?
there's
like
nothing in
switch?
There's nothing in the skull. The skull is an inert metal object on purpose.
Okay, it wasn't actually anything wired to it.
No,
you just had another like.
Still, I love that.
Like kill switch.
Yep.
That you hit at the same time.
It's
that's still pretty cool.
It's just like I remember I went to this house party years and years ago. It was a university party. I was not in university, but it was like one of the frat houses or whatever. And this dude came in, and I'm pretty sure he was on stilts because, well, I had to. Well, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But he was just wearing this robe, and he was wearing half of a pumpkin that wasn't even carved into anything. It wasn't a jack-o'-lantern. It was just half of a pumpkin on his head. And he came in, and he stood in a corner all night. And he fucking didn't move. He didn't do nothing. And then at the very end of the night, when the party was dying down, and like everybody's like always asking, like, who is this guy? Does anybody know who? Nobody has any idea. And all of a sudden, he just took the pumpkin mask off, and like the room was like dead silent. It was like even shut off the music. And he just said, "Has anybody got a beer?" And it was fucking legendary. Everybody just cheered and like went nuts. It was just like this thing the whole night. You're wondering, what's this dude gonna do? Is he gonna pull out, kill us all? Or, but dig that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. Yeah.
Just like having a nondescript box on your stage all night, and everybody's looking at that box, going, "Well, when's he gonna do some box, man?"
Yeah, exactly like that. And exactly. And I think that's real powerful, and I think that because I did it also so that people would really think that something happened with the skull or something came from the skull, like that the skull had done something. And I think that that's like an amazing, like when the guy takes off the pumpkin mask, like there's something about a reveal, and then when he says, "Has anybody got a beer?" Like it becomes something, you know, like you remember it and you tell it as a story now that happened to you, because it's important to you.
And I would probably tell people if I saw that show with you with the skull, I'd be like, okay, well, you're going to see jonCates. Okay, the skull, fucking watch.
Yeah,
Oh man, I would tell people that too. I'd be like, oh man, wait,
yeah,
they bust the skull.
yeah, yeah. And I only did it that once, and I never did it again.
I love it.
I think you should try to rewire the skull to be like a theremin.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So you
That
could
would be
like,
cool.
if you like rub its head, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's dope.
that would be real cool.
That's showmanship through and through. I dig that so much.
Yeah, that's cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm proud of that one. That was a good one.
So, how are you received there? Are they is glitch art a big thing over there, or?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's just I mean, we can talk as much or as little about my life in Taiwan as you want. Um, yes, there is a lot of glitch art. There has been a lot of glitch art for a long time here. There are artists, and there are specifically artists who come from noise music, and there's a very cool noise music community and culture here. So yeah, that has definitely been going on a long time, and some of those folks also teach at a very influential art school here in Taiwan, in Taipei, which is the capital city that I live in. So there are people who have gone through that program and now do that as well. So in other words, like there's a few generations of people who've been doing this. At the same time, I am also now part of this and starting to teach folks who are new to glitch art, who are new to digital art, Web3. So I'm also teaching digital art to folks and getting them started, and that's going really well. And I'm really happy about that.
What a hell of a teacher! It's very cool to think of it that way. I mean, I look at glitch art, and to me, it's something that I've only really discovered in the last couple of years. You know, ever since this
Yeah,
whole free thing and NFTs has come around.
yeah.
You know, and as I say that though, I also do start thinking of times when I've seen things and I've gone, okay, I probably have seen this, but I never really took it as a genre or what have you. You know, I might have actually just thought about it as, oh, that's fucked up. That's not working right. You know,
Yeah.
honestly.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's this, you know, and speaking with you tonight, I mean, we've had other glitch artists on the space, but you know, speaking with you tonight, like you've just kind of brought this, like, I don't know why, but like you've really brought this into my mind now. No, this is a fucking thing that people have doing for
Mm-hmm.
quite a, and it's like it's a gig. Like there's classes and there's teachings and there's
Yeah.
following. It's
Mm-hmm.
weird. I love it when my mind gets opened up like this. It's like, you know, in
Mm-hmm.
my head I'm also going, well, you did know this subliminally, right? Bits, like for
Mm-hmm.
Christ, you know, you're
Mm-hmm.
really expanding my mind to this now. I enjoy it a lot because I mean it speaks a lot to me. You know, if we go right back to earlier in the conversation talking about Commodore 64s and VIC 20s and shit like that, like I mean this
Mm-hmm.
it speaks to me like immensely,
Yeah.
right up my alley.
Yeah.
I've I've definitely been mucking around with it a lot lately, trying to figure out different things. And I mean, most of what I've been doing is just taking using programs and then just, you know, making something with it and then feeding it into something else and then feeding it into something else. And then sometimes you go, oh no, too far, got to back it up a bit, and then, you know, go a different route with it, which is what I've been kind of doing. I definitely would. It would be nice if I could have some of the old analog stuff to, you know, the stacks of equipment in my room to start really fucking around with that. But I figure that's a wormhole that would just that would bury me.
It is. Yeah. I mean, and well, there's like some narrative biographical material about me that folks kind of don't really know so much about, but like the way I grew up, it made me not want to have a lot of stuff around. So I developed like a real minimalist approach to like physical environments. Keep them kind of nice and clean and simple and all that. And then especially when we moved here a few years ago, then like you can't, I mean, you can, I guess, take a lot, but it's very expensive. So I tried to take as little as possible. And there was a time in my life, like when I was living in Austria, when like my whole life fit into one backpack, and I was so happy about that. I was so proud about that. Just internally, that just like made me feel good every day. I got up in the morning, my life was like in this backpack. And if you do analog glitch art, like that's impossible. Like you got to have all this like physical stuff that you're talking about. And some folks, friends of mine have beautiful, beautiful studios in houses, but they live in them houses, and that's like their house, and like that's where their stuff is. So I just sort of try not to do that. But at the same time, I love those folks. I love the art that they make. And some of it is only possible with that kind of investment of time and energy and money to actually have all those physical things. So recently I did go ahead and buy from Somfy a Somfy machine. Worked with Somfy to have them send it here physically, and do have a few physical things here now.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I believe that's probably what would happen to me, and that's where I go. I'm definitely happy that I can have programs on my computer or my iPad and phones and stuff like that, and be able to do this.
Yeah,
for sure. Because I totally get that. Because you got to think that a lot of this a lot of this technology that folks would use, like the physical stuff, it's not small, because it's
no,
came from a time when this shit wasn't digital, right? Like it wasn't itty bitty microchips and stuff like that. This stuff was physically big and
yeah,
and hot. Like you got to imagine, like being in some of those rooms, it'd be just ridiculous. Like you'd have
yeah,
and shit.
yeah.
Cool. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I just pulled up this piece I'm looking at right here, right now. Now I have to back out of it to see what the hell it was called. It's a beautiful piece of a buffalo. I don't know if you know it off the top of your head, but I got to find out the
Yeah.
name of it.
Mm-hmm. I think I know it.
Oh, it's an illustration 2E2058W. All right.
Yeah.
That one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it. I know the one. Yeah.
I don't know why I never noticed it. Like when I was perusing your stuff over the last couple of weeks, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece.
Oh.
Like I envision this piece huge in
Mm-hmm.
in like some hotel lobby or somewhere,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. Let's put that in the hotel lobby. Uh, yeah, win millions, right? Next stop, hotel lobby.
Right. So where does a lot of your inspiration come from? Whether you're creating something that's audio or visual, where do you like to dig your inspiration from?
Mm-hmm.
That's around.
Yeah. Yeah. So this piece with the buffalo, for instance, which is technically called illustration number 2E2058W, that one is a good way for us to kind of talk about inspiration and how I do the art that I do. So yeah, I'm not from I'm not from out west. So to begin with, like the West is a place of imagination. But I am an American. I am from the United States of America. So that means that Western imagination, the imagination of a place, the West, which actually does exist. And I have been there, spent time there and traveled there, is super beautiful, physically in real life, as well as being part of our imagination. It's sort of like Americana, it's like what we imagine. So that's the sort of easy way to talk about the source of my inspiration is this kind of classic style of Americana, and then take it and turn it towards some other purposes or other directions.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So the buffalo, for instance, is a real symbol. And I recently was talking to Pokebelly about this, and Pokebelly said something which is real accurate, which is that he said that at some point I must have gotten fixated on the cowboy as an icon, as a symbol, and that's 100% true. At a certain point, I got fixated on the idea of a cowboy or cowgirl, cowfolks, and this, like, the cowboy hat as a immediate connection that folks have with a certain type of imagination, American imagination, Americana.
Totally, very Americana.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I described to you earlier, I really literally grew up at a crossroads in a town of 10 houses that had a general store that I went to for my piano lessons. And so it's not, some of it is directly connected to my life experience. And then part of it is also in the world of imagination and reflecting on my role in all of that. Like, where do I stand in all of this?
Mm-hmm. It's just kind of a little side thing. Do you ever think that this genre, that these things will ever come to an end for you? Or do you think that this is like you'll be able to keep doing this and doing this and doing this? Do you ever think that, it'll ever turn into space or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm an old skull, so it's not my first rodeo, and I've been around a while. So this is a choice, and I've chosen to go down this road, and this is on purpose. I can foresee being able to continue to do this indefinitely, until somebody turns the lights out.
For sure. No, that's good. That's good to hear, man. It's good to hear. Do you just random question? Do you wear the cowboy hat around town, or?
Yeah. So I have in my hands right now the hat that I got from my dad's hat, and I kept it clean, and it's all good and proper, and I wear it, and I'm proud of it. And so, what they say, you can't buy a cowboy hat, but I also do buy cowboy hats. So I got a few of them that I bought as well. Taipei, Taiwan is a special place to wear a cowboy hat because you're really making a statement when you do it. So I do it sparingly.
I was gonna say no. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but that's cool, man. I don't know. I imagine there's people that probably brightens them up. Like they're probably enthralled, right? I mean, especially if, to me, what would come to my mind is little kids that have been exposed to maybe Old West. That would get super kick out of it.
Well, little kids are already like that with me anyway. Like, little kids are like, "Oh, hoodza," which means like beard, like, "Oh, nika hoodza." It's like, look at that big beard, So yeah, I definitely have some of that like weird white guy energy going on here anyway.
But I'm sure you're just smiling and you're very welcoming. So they're not terrified.
No, the kids are excited.
Oh, did you just break up out there? Did I just break up out there? What happened there? Are you still here, John?
You're still good, Bits.
Okay. I had a little bit of a heart attack there. If it's just John that dropped out, that's fine. It's only he's only the reason we're here tonight. I mean, we don't need him. Just all right. Well, we'll hopefully we'll get John back in just a few moments. Twitter playing some tricks on it. It's the first one that it's played on us tonight, so maybe this non-video thing is where it's at. Just while we're sitting here, I want to give the room a reset. You are listening to the Night Train, folks. We are here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, or 9 a.m. if you're in Taiwan. The next day, Wednesday. That's where we are. Tonight we are chatting with jonCates, who is a glitch Western artist and a legend. Wears a cowboy hat in Taipei. Sorry, I'm trying to add him up here as a speaker. Trying to walk and talk at the same time. There he is. Are you back? Are we here? Have we lost you? The cowboy hat was too much. Elon, no way, man. Cowboy hats and beards, you're fucking out of here. We're gonna send you down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I think that guy also loves his cowboy hats, although he sometimes might wear them in the wrong direction.
Yar.
That time he went down to the border and he said, "Somebody go get me a cowboy hat."
Oh Lord. Just as you broke, we lost you there. I was kind of thinking. We talked about the audio that you create, the music you create. Is there music that inspires you to create? What do you listen to?
Oh, so much. I'm so glad that we can talk about this. Yeah, so much. I guess like really early inspiration is Parliament Funkadelic and Kraftwerk. So those two albums, or those two artists, like Kraftwerk and Parliament Funkadelic, that's like really at the core of music that I love. So yeah, and then more recently, Beyonce's Cowboy Carter album is on heavy repeat for me, to just try to listen to that all the time and understand it, but also just love it. It's just so good.
I haven't, I have not even heard a single bloody track off of that yet. Is it like a serious effort? It's like a legit.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
Beyonce. So I mean, I'd be really pissed if she was just calling it in.
Oh no, it's not calling it in. No, it's like real. I mean, people have a lot of opinions about this album, as you can imagine, but it's a real. She worked very hard on this, of course, but also it covers a lot of ground. And it's meant to really establish and assert that. Like people say, "Oh, how'd you decide to?" They ask her, like, "How'd you decide to make a country album?" Or your country album, and she says, "Oh no, it's not a country album; it's a Beyonce album." And so it's like that's a perfect response. It's a fantastic Beyonce album. It's also an amazing country album, but it's not entirely country. There's other parts. There's other genres in there, like opera. There's an opera song in there.
Cool. Yeah, no, yeah. I have not dipped into there to check out any tracks yet. And it's really funny that my Amazon Music hasn't thrown it in there yet, but it's kind of interesting. No, it's cool. I appreciate that. Kraftwerk, I mean, fuck, legends.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're talking industrial music, electronic music, anything like that, like I mean, yeah, you cannot.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know who Kraftwerk was, you don't know where that music came from, or what mind blowing. I remember my mom's big into vinyl. Well, she just got really back into it about 3 years ago, and she is collecting like mad. And she calls me up one day. Well, FaceTimes me. She's like, I just got this album. She's like, they were like the first industrial band. She's like, like when you used to listen to KMFDM and blah 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 blah. And oh yeah, Kraftwerk. And she goes, of course you know. And I'm like,
yeah, so good.
Yeah, she's collected a few of their albums now. Like she actively searches them out. Very, very hard to find because my mom is a thrifter. She's not a person that is going to go to a record store and buy vinyl at top prices. Like she wants to go and find it for 25 cents because that's part of the journey, right?
Yeah.
finding treasure. But yeah, Kraftwerk for sure. And I mean, Parliament, yeah, dude,
Uh-huh.
Bootsy, like that. Fuck, just great, great. That's awesome. So when you're creating stuff, do you have music blasting, or are you a silent?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all the time. And that's one of those, people sometimes will warn you, not so much visual art, but like media art. People will warn media artists, like, oh, don't do that because you're going to end up like making something that has the same like rhythms and patterns as the music that you're listening to. But you can also do that on purpose. You can do that intentionally. So yeah, I definitely am hardcore. Sometimes when I'm doing something specific, I'm just listening to something, over and over and over again as I'm making an artwork, so that actually it really is going into the artwork through me.
Well, that makes sense to me. I mean, for people to even think, oh, don't do that because your art or music might sound just like that, and it's like, well, okay, great, I like that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't that's weird. And I mean, yeah, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds very.
Mm-hmm.
I just people to say that just sounds very weird. It's like, well, yeah, okay, good. I fucking hope. I hope I'm the
Mm-hmm.
next. Hope I'm the next Led Zeppelin or something. I don't know. Who cares?
Mm-hmm. 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 And yeah, I mean, the things that I'm listening to on heavy repeat, like also are they're weird, and they're probably maybe a little surprising. They're not exactly what you might imagine. So they come out in my own way. Like they turn into something else, you know?
Which is why you're jonCates.
Yeah, I mean, which is why everybody is who they are. Like we're converting, transforming the material of our lives into our art.
Yep. And and nobody else could create it the way that you create it, even if they were doing it side by side in exactly the
Right.
same way. Have that little
Mm-hmm.
bit. It's what makes
Mm-hmm.
humans so damn great, man. So damn.
Mm-hmm.
Um.
Like for instance, I give you. This is not something that I've really said before, but it's just a secret. Like there's this version or this song by Tanya Tucker called Delta Dawn, and I love this song, and I love it a lot, like real hard. And so I'll just sometimes be listening to Delta Dawn like over and over and over again, and then it'll be motivating me to do something that is glitch art. But Delta Dawn is not noise music.
At all. Not at all. That's a wild one to pull up there. Little Delta Dawn. All right.
Yeah, it's
And
a
again,
great it's a great song.
yeah. No, it's a classic for sure. I was actually just trying to look it up, but my computer froze on it. I was going to play a little bit of it, but it just kind of. So that kind of brings me to like I'm. Do you think that the repetitive listening to something as you're creating is that like does it help the glitchiness to the next level too? Because I mean, kind of your art like repeats, right? Like when you're watching
Yeah,
like pieces, like do you think that that's part of the process and that's the way your mind is? I guess that was
I
kind of
do. Yeah,
okay.
I really do think so. I really understand the question, and I really feel that way. Like, um, I try to be careful with this so that it's not too repetitive, but there is a way in which there are ideas that are repeating. I guess we could also say iterating, like iterations of uh, the same thing but different. Like make it different because transform it over time. And I think people can consider the fact that time changes what's happening. So even if you are repeating something, it's moving through time, and time is affecting all of us and changing all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Oh, I'm so happy that you fucking got and understood my question because I knew what I wanted to say, but I didn't feel like I said it. Okay, we're on the same level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. And speaking of iterations down there. Hi, iteration. I know that wasn't the iteration we were talking of, but um,
but she's awesome,
oh, and
and so happy to see you.
hell yeah, we love iteration. She's great. She was a guest on our show a while back, and she also created a piece of art for us. And got so many.
Yes, and she has recently. Let me drop this. She's recently subscribed to my hypersub, which is Crypto Cowpokes, and so iteration, as she said just today, is now an official Crypto Cowpoke, along with me on my hypersub.
Yeehaw! What's
Yeah.
I saw that. I did see that tweet. What the hell is a hyper sub?
It's cool. Iteration, she actually told me about it, told me about Hypersub. And so then I started one. It's a way for folks to subscribe, and you can then get special drops from us. Iteration has her own Hypersub, and I have mine, and folks have theirs. And so you can subscribe, and then we will give you different things. Like, the artist can decide what they're going to do. So for me, I've been dropping exclusives and also sharing things editions that already exist, but then I can share them directly to anybody who subscribes to my hypersub, like give you things that are either exclusives or minted editions, as well as share new things in the upcoming month. Like, so in May, which is about to begin for y'all, but has just begun for me. Gonna gonna do some new exclusives for folks, and also start to reveal what I call the secrets of glitch, which is this this kind of body of work that I'm building, bringing together all the glitch western plus also my life as it is now here in Taiwan.
Oh, cool. That's fun. That sounds awesome. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Listening to you talk, I could feel the pump in your system and your excitement
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. I'm excited for it. Yeah.
I never noticed how many trains could be in your works.
A lot.
I had no idea. This is great. See, a lot of the time, Willie and I, one of us may know a bit more about the artist than the other, but we typically don't do deep dives, right? Because honestly, we may ask questions that you've been asked a million times, but we like to keep it like natural. Like we want what we ask to be very, very genuine. So, as I'm going through the show here and clicking through stuff and then reading tweets and things like that and going through, it's like I learned stuff along the way, and I'm like, huh, who would have known? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
why we had to
Yeah.
have you on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The way I grew up, the sound of the train, like when I would go visit my mama, the sound of the train was a little bit distant, but real constant. Like, there was a freight train track that was not too far away from my mama's house, and so I would I would hear it as I fell asleep at night, like this sound of this distant train. And it really became like very calming to me. It's a real calming sound of sort of faraway trains. At the same time, like a part of a dream space, like a train is a place that's traveling and it's going somewhere, and like, yeah, like a dream space, like you go somewhere in your dreams at night. And I have real vivid memories of that from my childhood. So when you put that together with the fact that train technology transformed, train technology is a key technology for first industrial revolution as a machine technology, and train technology transformed the West. It transformed, like, it's part of how we think about the nation state now called United States of America is partially created by the train system. So trains are real important.
Very much so. Very much so. We actually, I don't even know. It was very recently where we got onto the train subject, kind of like this, and I had pointed out too that trains. I believe to this day trains are still pound for pound the cheapest way to send goods anywhere, right? Just because of how, I mean, yeah, trains are. I've always dug trains. They've always been quite into them. It's not the reason we called the space the night train, but behind my house down the hill, I have a railroad track that's extremely close to me, very close to me. I walk right next to it with the dog all the time and get right up close to the trains, which is really cool because I enjoy the graffiti that's on the cars. It's just like it really super appeals to me, and it's really awesome because over time, I've seen pieces of graffiti change, and that, like, I mean, it's one thing when you're walking around a city and you walk by a building and it's somebody's been tagging and doing it, but then when it's on a train and it's traveling by, that blows me away because it's like, to me, it's like that, where does that car go? Where is it stopping? Where is it getting that graffiti up? But people are getting it done. Like I've seen pieces that have been unfinished, and then I've again and they've been finished, and it's like that person went and fucking scoped out that train.
Yeah,
big.
Amazing.
But yeah, without the train, I mean, yeah, settling the United States, like crucial. Same, up here in Canada. I mean, shit, I don't even know how long the train didn't even come. It was about 1900, I think, is when it made it out west. And I mean, prior to that, it was like people that, horse-drawn carriage trying to figure out how to head west. Never mind just being able to go out west, and how many people settled along the way. But yeah, the train is super, super important.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. And, when you bring up like settler colonial imperialism, it's important to also remember like the train system is a remarkable technology, which is tied directly to the American identity, because it was a nation building effort, but also is a massive criminal corporate enterprise, which did massive environmental and not just environmental, but cultural and sociological damage, like permanent harm. So this is like that double edge of the dual use problem where we can be, we can have a complicated relationship with something.
That's a really great way to put it. A compliment. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Well, it matters, but I guess my point. What I'm trying to say is an infrastructure project that large is always built on slave labor. Always.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, this one was also part of genocide, attempted genocides, and actual genocides. So it's not
the Irish,
just
the Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, but you just brought up people from this part of the world, which we can call Ancient East, because that's a good way to talk about this part of the world from that point in time. So people from Ancient East also came to United States, what is now nation state of United States, not simply to like physically build the railroad, but to engineer the mechanics of making it possible. Specifically, like to engineer how the fuck to get the railway system through the mountains, because people from this part of the world have 5,000 years of cultural traditions, history, technology, and science to understand how to bridge those types of landscapes, because those types of landscapes exist already, obviously, in this part of the world where people had already built bridges and engineering projects, which they then took their expertise to California and the West to build the railroad system.
And you know what? And we still didn't really listen very well when they brought their expertise.
Yeah.
Gotta say that.
Yeah. But like the story that gets told, the reason I bring it up is because this is one of those histories. We were talking about histories earlier. This is one of those histories that doesn't get told. Like the version of this that gets told is like, oh, people came from China, which is, when you hear China now, you think the People's Republic of China, which is not what we're talking about. So people came from this part of the world and they worked like on building the railroad and and we imagine this like hard labor, because it was incredibly hard labor. But that's not the entirety of the story. Like, the other part of the story, which people need to hear, is that people from this part of the world had thousands of years of science that they brought as their expertise to actually engineer how to get through the mountains, like how to build the bridges and the tunnels to get through. Like, for instance, the invention of explosives and dynamite is from this part of the world. And the people from this part of the world brought that to California.
Yeah. I get that 100%. And Europeans as well too had that back in the day as well. Not to the extent, but yeah, no, it just brings me around how we still didn't listen.
Yeah, but we don't tell a story about Europeans. It's like, it's a different story we tell about Europeans.
Yeah, well, it's the nicer side of it, I guess, when it boils down to it. Anyways.
I saw a joke the other day that the British conquered everywhere in the entire world looking for spices, and yet they don't use any of them in their food.
This is so true. So true. Yeah.
I'm just clicking through this. I found this one piece that you have. So, when horse wins, right at this particular moment, and what it's brought to me is that. So, I mean, but I guess you're all over the board. Hey, I mean, do you use AI to create some of your pieces or some of your like?
Yeah.
Basic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I mean, and you obviously use real photos and video as well.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep.
It just kind of clicked in. Now, once again, I'm just having these epiphanies as I'm speaking with you, clicking through your stuff. It's like, yeah, you're all over the board. I mean, you use whatever format and whatever thing speaks to you, and that's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
You're not stuck with one thing. It's like, okay, well, jonCates only works with oil paintings, and then he glitches them up.
Yeah. Okay. I'm real happy you brought that up, because I think this is the amazing opportunity presented by digital art. This is actually what digital art offers all of us, which is that we can do this in whatever ways, and also translate them the way from one to another. Like, because it's all digital, either born digital or becomes digital. In any case, like, once it's in compute, it can become malleable and formed, reformed, shaped, reshaped, mixed, remixed, and that means that we have this kind of endless set of possibilities.
Yeah. And that's great. And that's what people need to know, right? They need to hear that. Like, put it there. That's the most brilliant. That's what let's just call it the normal world needs to hear and understand that, this is what digital art is about. It's about taking these tools and using them in whichever way you want to do it. And like, you're right. Like, that's the thing. That's, we don't hear those conversations as much anymore, but like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you just, like, input that and it just spit it out. Well, you didn't really do anything. It's like, well, yeah, I did.
Yeah, there's that argument, which is like a negative one. And then there's like a positive one, which I'm also real skeptical of. And if you don't mind, I would like to talk about it just a little bit, if that's okay.
Please do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. For folks who are like thinking about this, I think it's important to remember that in crypto art, digital art on blockchains, sometimes we have a heavy influence from other commercial domains, like design or corporate logic, like branding. So sometimes artists feel real compelled to have a very clear, concise branding as their approach to art making. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And while that might make a saleable product or a recognizable product, it doesn't necessarily equate to the artists having that kind of freedom that I was just describing with the compute powers or digital art.
It's kind of more like using a formula.
It can be. And so it can be, that can be hard on folks. Like there are people who do this in a way that I super, super respect, and I love it. And I wish I had that capacity sometimes, but I wish I had that ability to do something that was so, clear like that. I spend a lot of time trying to make sure that what I do does make sense. And the way that I do it is this creation of the glitch Western genre, because that genre is big enough to accommodate, like you said, all these different approaches that I take.
And I do appreciate all the approaches you take. I love it. Absolutely. It's wonderful. Like, and it's so funny that this has only really clicked into my brain in the last, 10 minutes. I'm like, oh shit. Like, you're all over the board. I love it. And it's not that I haven't appreciated what you do. It's just like sometimes you look at it and now I'm actually hearing your voice and listening to processes and who you are. And then I'm taking the time to engulf myself in your art too. And then it's like, oh, I never put this together before. I never looked at things this way before. And here it is.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's good to just appreciating art. I kind of wanted to touch because I'm looking at a lot of the horse trading pieces.
Yeah.
You and Tex, your idea that was you and Tex got together and decided to do the horse trading thing?
That was Tex's idea. Yeah, Texadelic. That was Texadelic's idea. And Texadelic kicked that off for everybody. And I was super excited. So I jumped in right away. And it was a very small group of us. And but I could already imagined that like more folks would be interested in doing this, and for a number of reasons. One, horses are awesome.
I mean, just the way it blew up from the first season, I guess I'll call it, from the first season to the second season was like enormous.
Yeah. And then recently Skulltakes reached out and was like, oh, let's trade fishes, let's do fishes. And so recently, we had some fish for fish in this fish market situation.
I love that. I was in the I'm in the chat and I was trying to prepare.
Yeah, I saw that. That was cool.
Yeah,
I wasn't able to really get in on any of that, but yeah, that was a cool one.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the fish was kind of born from the same idea as the horse trading. When I first saw it, it did kind of give me like a theft of idea kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But
sure. And of course, all this goes back further to Object for Object and Hen and people who, want to create a way to share art with each other, like exchange and trade art with each other. So it goes back to this Object for Object practice that people established also.
I really like the horse trading.
Yeah, I guess it's
Willie can't hear me. I bet
not that big a deal.
I know. Willie.
I mean, it's more of an homage than just a blatant like I'm going to steal your idea.
Yeah. Or like the specific kind of horses part of horse trading, and then the like Western part of horse trading, is the more specific appeal too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, John, can you?
I don't know if you already answered this or not.
Yes, I can. I can hear both of you.
Okay, but
no, because I was driving and stuff, so I don't know if you answered it, but so I'll ask it again if you answered it. Just be like, oh, hey, Demi, go back and listen to the chat. I heard you? I did hear the question about influences. Did you answer like how you got into Western specifically?
Yeah.
And
no,
like how
I didn't.
That came about?
No, I didn't. I can say something about that real quick. Part of it is grown up the way that I did. That's part of the American experience. Like Americana has this yeah, close relationship with the Western genre of media, movies in particular. So obviously saw a lot of it growing up, and my dad loved certain westerns and imparted that love to me of the Western genre. Then, when he passed, which took a long while, it's like his passing lasted about 10 years. So when he passed, I went looking for him in the Westerns that he loved. And as I was sort of, looking for him in that way and sort of spending time with him in that way, I was reprocessing these Westerns. And I found that, yes, while I love how they look, their aesthetics, I also hate what they say, their unrepentant racism and settler colonial imperialism. So, like, I was struck by my love-hate relationship, and I realized, oh, this is a material I can work with. As an artist, I can glitch the Western.
Oh, that's cool. That's a beautiful story. Yeah, it's funny with that. Are you somebody? I mean, I don't. I definitely. I think I know the answer to this. I mean, you're somebody that believes that this stuff should still stick around, though, right? Like when you talk about the horrible racism and stereotyping that was happening in these Western films. I mean, do you believe that these things should be still stuck around as learning tools, right? Or am I wrong?
I mean, yeah, no, of course. I mean, sure. Also, I still love some of these westerns that are terrible. Like I hate some of these westerns for sure.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to it was just kind of more like a question because I mean, like the old cancel culture that we're having these days. So, I fully understand that with a lot of these old westerns too. I mean, heck, if you look at old Disney cartoons, they're loaded with this stuff as well. People don't know, but you watch some of them, they totally are. There's lots of wrong things in the Disney cartoons as well. But yeah, no, I wanted to know what you're feeling like. Should they just no, they should change them. They should get rid of them and burn them. No, they should stick around because they're still really good movies, still really good stuff. But just back then, things were a little different. I guess that's what I'm feeling. It's a vibe. Willie, are you back? Oh, I guess I got to let you up, hey? I'm bringing Willie back up here. It's funny, Willie messaged me because I said, "Fuck, you can't hear me," and he goes, "Oh no, I guess I got to drop out." And then he just texted me back. He's like, "I thought you just stepped away and you were letting the dog out, and that's why you weren't talking anymore." But I'm here. There he is.
So, but speaking of the Disney stuff, like they still keep it around too. They didn't get rid of it. There was a push for them to get rid of a lot of the old racist cartoons
Yeah.
and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
they just kind of use it as a teaching moment, like, and they put
Mm-hmm.
a like a warning in the front of it, I guess, a trigger warning, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, if you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
of like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
like, these were written in a time where this was acceptable in media and culture.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
be warned.
Yeah. Now, here's what I think is good about all that, which is that all this always reminds us that it's non-neutral. Like these are not neutral. They come from certain perspectives, and that's always true with every kind of media that's made or experience. Like it's coming from different perspectives. So we need to acknowledge that, and that can be part of how we understand what it is. It's trying to tell us something. It has a message.
I love
Well,
that.
there's the old saying too that history is written by the winners. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now whether if you want to take that into media and context of Disney and stuff, it's like, well, okay, well, they were the most powerful media source, so they could do whatever they
Mm-hmm.
want essentially at the time. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
still kind of can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And winners don't win forever.
Nope, they certainly don't. That
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of wanted to touch back on the horse trading thing. I loved when the horse trading thing came around. I loved it because I mean, horse for a horse trade. Like, I mean, that's been a saying for, well, probably since way back in the days, right? Horse for a horse, right? Well, let's. I mean, it was used. Uh, you know, one of the jobs I worked at was out in the rural prairies, and a lot of those folks, farm folks, and I mean, that's how it always was. Like whenever you were doing a swap with them with anything, whether it was a tool or trading parts for dirt bikes or something, it was all that they used that phrase all the time. Well, let's do a horse trade, right? Like, so I really dug it. When the trading thing came about, I was like, oh, I'm into this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, horses are super valuable and real important, and they continue to be. But their value, like in the past, in a previous technological time, was very powerful. And so that's why we still say it. We also say horsepower when we refer to,
I was going to say, when you said powerful, I was going to say, would you say it's about 1 horsepower powerful?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, horsepower is a measurement of a horse's power.
Write that one down, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, like, I mean, like, we go back to the whole train thing. Prior to that train or the automobile, that's horses, man. That's where it was at. That's how these fucking people moved around. A lot of places in the world. I guess in some places we're using ox and different cows too, but we don't
But a
need to
lot
go
of
down.
horses. A lot of horses all over the world.
Horses. We're saying horses, people. Horses.
Just another terrible American measure of unit that it comes from nothing and is hard to translate, as opposed to like 1 metric ton of force, which is a lot easier to translate to 2 metric tons of force or 2,000 metric tons of force.
You're saying force, right, Willie, with an F, not horse? Two metric.
Yeah. Force.
Horse.
Yeah, force.
What do you measure that in? Horse.
As in the measure of force.
Cool.
Which is what horsepower is a measure of force.
Horsepower is a measurement of force. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I just wanted to just stop and go, John, as I did mention to you, right, anytime you got to split and go do things, you feel free to do so, but you're not kicking you out of here. You're more than welcome to hang out with us longer. We love to, we're having a great conversation with you, but I thought this would be a really good time if you're okay with it. I would like to ask anybody down below if anybody who's been listening tonight and hanging out has any questions for you, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
Not, of course, a horse.
So, I mean, talking about horses, did you grow up with horses, being from Kentucky and all that? And like, is that a part of your like cultural background?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so my friend had a horse when I was a kid, and I loved it, but that wasn't possible for us or for my family, not directly. But my cousin, what she does is her business is that she buys the retired racehorses, and then she retrains them to be with people, like to be people horses, and not to be race horses anymore. This is in Kentucky, and so I spent some time also with her horses, but generally no, not so much. Like it's more more like rare in my own personal experience, and maybe that's also why I love it so much.
Going back to that fantasy part that you were talking about earlier of the West.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. The dream of the West. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, it's fact that you got to be fucking. Horses are so damn expensive, man. I know city folk that own horses, and they literally work 2 to 3 jobs to own their fucking horse, which is like Jesus.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of neighbors where I'm like in the middle of a city, but I'm on like acre lots, and there's a lot of us that are on these acre lots, not me, but a lot of us, a lot of my neighbors have horses. So
Oh.
it's not uncommon to see them, walking up and down the street, even though they have like trail path access right behind us. It's not
Oh.
uncommon to see them
Oh.
up and down the street, like to see horse shit in the street. It's like, come on, guys. Just because
Yeah.
it's a horse doesn't mean you don't got to pick it up.
Uh-huh. That's cool.
How big of a roll of baggies do you have to carry around to pick up horse shit? God, that'd be a yes.
A lot.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
a
know.
lot.
Wheel your can down here. I don't know.
That's crazy, Willie. So just because your lots are big acre lots, like you guys, can they rip horses wherever they want? Can they like go to the fucking gas station with the horse?
I mean, technically, like legally, yes.
Okay.
But it's more of a like, do you want to put your horse in
Yeah.
that environment?
That I get that.
Yeah.
I say that like it's a crazy question, but here I live in the prairies and I live in a city of over 1.5 million people, and we still have a bylaw that says you have to have a hitching post in front of each one of your businesses. And I actually do believe that you are allowed to ride a horse in the city limits here. I know a lot of the smaller communities outside, people do. There was just a big deal just south of me. There was a lady who was bringing her horse into the coffee shop, into the Tim Hortons drive-through lineup every morning.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right? And I mean, fucking, that's like so awesome. And there was a big kerfuffle about it. A lot of people had problems, but the lady's like, she's like, well, no, this is a horse that I use in parades, and this is a horse that I used to take the children. So, I'm not stressing my horse out. I'm just keeping my horse up to par with when things are going on, that my horse stays cool. Right. And it's fine.
Yeah.
Like people that have their horses and animals, they love them. Like that's, I always hate that when, people with like horses do things like that. And then people are like, well, that's mean. That's cruel. It's like, you know what? That person probably loves their horse more than you love your cat, is what it boils down to. But anyways, yeah, this lady goes and she goes to the drive through and picks up her coffee. And the only thing that the mayor of the town said is, she has to clean up her horse shit just like anybody has to clean up her dog crap. And that's all there is to it. She can drive her horse around as much as she wants. And I said, drive a horse again.
Love it. Love it. That's awesome.
Okay, I got a fun story for you guys. So my dad worked for the railroads for 40 plus years, and one of his brakemen that used to work for him, he lived more on the outskirts, and he had a couple horses, and he was the guy who would take his goddamn horse to the bar. So there was a bar, like half a block away or whatever from his house, or 2 blocks away from his house. And he would ride his horse down to the bar, and he'd take his horse inside the bar, and the horse would be inside the fucking bar.
Yes.
He was that guy.
Yes. Love it. Love it.
And he'd feed the horse beer.
Uh-huh.
He also rescued a wolf and had a wolf.
Wow.
So
this guy,
that was interesting, going over to his house.
This guy's cool.
He was also basically like our mechanic.
Uh-huh.
So we'd go over there a lot to get, mechanic work done. And he'd be like, "You want to pet the wolf?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to see the fucking wolf."
Wow.
Get the wolf back there by the horse.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I want to sit here and have a couple beers and drinks and fucking fix the transmission, man.
Was his name Grizzly Adams, man? Like,
no.
That's awesome.
No, he didn't. He didn't have a beard. He was kind of a shorter guy. He kind of reminds me of you bits. Only a lot crazier.
That is so cool.
A lot crazier. Yeah, he was a crazy trainman.
Crazy train. He's on the crazy train.
I just saw that we got Malicious just popped up. Malicious, how are you doing? If you got a question or just want to say hi, what's going on?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to reminisce a little bit about a horse story, but I also had a question about train. So I'll lead with the horse. At my high school, it was a frequent sight to see horses tied up outside of the school because people would ride them to school in the summer, and then those would be exchanged for snowmobiles in the wintertime.
From snowmobile?
Yeah, rural living.
It doesn't sound quite as Canadian as people would think, right? Like people would imagine that we're rolling polar bears and with our team of penguins.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and then so my question to John would be, I may have missed this because I missed the first portion of the talk, which was lovely, by the way. I was wondering if in your process, do you use any source material of older footage of trains? And if so, have you explored the train collision, one of the earliest recorded films, as well as the train coming towards the audience? I can't remember exactly what it's called. But those were two of the earliest films that were shown, like short films shown in theaters in between actual films. And if you explore that in your work, like utilizing source material and then glitching upon it, or are you building from scratch? That is my question.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. Those are great questions. And it's cool about the horses and the snowmobiles at the high school. So yeah, maybe what folks don't necessarily know is that the history of cinema, of filmmaking and movies is very directly tied to the development of the trains and railway system, the railroads. They really are very interconnected. So yeah, like you said, some of the first films, or for instance, like first films shown in public, like presented as a film that you can go pay money to watch in a theater, or for instance, like first narrative films, first Western, like cowboy film. These are films that involve trains. So yeah, trains are very much like part of the technology of filmmaking from the very beginning of cinema, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, of course, like these are influences, big influences. For instance, that like first narrative film that I was referring to is The Great Train Robbery, which does have a story, and also people say is the first Western movie, like first cowboy movie, and it's a movie about these folks attempting to rob a train, train station, train, etc. So those are early films, and they are from the very beginning of movies, movie making, cinema. That also means that some of those are from a time before copyright begins in the way that we know it today, especially the way that it's enforced in let's say North America and also EU, European Union. It's because copyright is not the same everywhere around the world, but in these two regions, North America and EU, copyright is pretty similar. So that's something that I think about a lot. Actually, as I make my art, I'm always attentive to the intellectual property regimes that are influencing the media. So when you ask, like, do I sample or yes, the answer is yes, I have. And yes, I do. But I'm also very intentional about it. I can give you like a short example of something I did, which is go to some links to get material that is in the public domain that is not copywritten film material, cowboy movies that are in the public domain but are not generally accessible. So I bought them on film, and then as a result of buying them on film, I digitized them and made them digital files. So these didn't exist on internet before. They weren't something I could sample and download. There's something I had to go through this process to put into my art.
That's next up. Actually, very cool to that. I guess that facts too. There's probably so much stuff in this world that's still, it might be public domain, but is still not digitized. And for you to source that out and then digitize it, that's kind of cool. Not kind of cool. That is fucking cool.
Yes, very fabulous. Thank you very much.
I was thinking there was a train in A Trip to the Moon as well, but I couldn't find anything on Wikipedia just now, so I could be wrong about that. But it looked like the first in my brief research just now. It looked like the first kinestoscope, as we're very familiar with from our talk with Cats Will Eat You, was a horse. Have you ever used that?
John might have been answering the phone. It was buzzing.
I see.
That's all good.
It was. I was wondering what that buzzing was.
Okay, sorry, y'all. Had a little bit of a thing here, so gonna have to mute it for a second, okay?
No worries. Absolutely. Go right ahead. Cool. Hey, Mal.
All right, well, I guess we'll carry on without him for a minute.
Yeah. And definitely when he comes back in, TP will definitely get to you and your question and what's going on with you. Thanks for popping in tonight. Just wanted to thank everybody for popping in tonight. Really appreciate you. We say it all the time here on the show, folks taking time out of their own personal days to come in and hang out with us and to listen to our guests speak. It means a lot to us, and we do appreciate it very, very, very much. It is no small feat. Some folks might think you're just listening to a space, but it means the world to us that you take time out of your day to come in here and visit with us. And of course, this is the Night Train. We are here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, talking to artists of all shapes, colors, sizes, genres. We love to hang out and we love to chat. It's a very, very casual space. We always try to make any of our guests feel like they're sitting on a couch, and we've had some really great conversations.
We typically try not to ask what shape, color, or size they are.
We haven't.
Which was a weird comment by you just now. I don't know. It's weird. Shapes, colors, and
Probably
sizes. I don't know.
Well, but
it just seemed weird.
Well, I mean, yes, it's just like malicious. It's probably smart, but it's not a polite thing to ask all the time. I mean, it hasn't come up yet where I've gone, okay, you sound green. Are you green? But yeah, we never know. I mean, there's been times when
Greened out, maybe.
Sorry, what was
race and cultural background?
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, race and cultural background do have impressions and like ways that God, I am just not on it today.
That's okay.
That influence your art. So those are at times relevant questions, but we don't ever pick who we're talking to based on.
Sometimes you got to dig deep when you have somebody who's a Canadian artist and then they come on with an Australian accent and you go, okay, hang on a minute here.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that that's surprising in Canada because I mean the melting pot that we are, but it's never really that. Just it's funny that never comes up. Willie and I never care. There's been times when people have come on and we're like, oh, you're a dude. We had no idea. And it's like, not that we had any judgment before when you're looking at the art, but it's like we don't know. So there are literally some points in time where we have no idea what a person. Well, we never know what a person's going to sound like, honestly and truly, because we've never heard them before. But like we have no idea who we're talking to sometimes when we come into these spaces, and the things that we learn are just fucking unreal. And I love it. It's part of the whole experience, and why the night train is well worth the ride every Tuesday night at 9. Absolutely. I just want to give a little shout out to folks down there. Fendel down there, thank you very much for being here. Jay. Proteon popped in. Lily White down there.
Speaking of Proteon, I was going to say we still have no idea what that guy does for a living.
No.
And I have been guessing every random occupation you can think of for like 2 years now.
And we don't know. And he says we'll never guess because it's
I bet I hit one of them though. I bet I hit one of them. He's just like, nope, keep rolling.
It's possible.
You'll never know.
I still think he's one of Santa's helpers or the Easter Bunny. Just gonna throw that out there. Lily White has a brand new PFP. Look at that pretty PFP.
I did see that.
The butterfly in it too. Oh, it's so very nice. Very nice. Top face down there. Thank you very much for joining us as well. Innovative's rocking a new PFP. It's we've talked about this recently in the last couple of weeks about I brought it up like you're changing a PFP really fucks me up. When people do that, it's like you disappear, and then all of a sudden I realize, oh, you changed your PFP. You have been in the last 3 spaces, but you changed your PFP.
Well, Lily White's still sticking with the butterfly, so that one was easy to adjust to. I was like, oh, all right, we just got a new butterfly.
Jay has been his lazy lion for as long as I can remember. Was he ever? He used to have a fish too, I guess. He probably had a fish. I don't remember that though.
He might have had an alt account that was a fish.
Hey.
Good day, sir.
Hey.
Hi. How are you? How can we help coming into?
Oh yeah, I just have some questions about the tickets to the night train.
Yeah, absolutely. They're sold out for the next 3 weeks. But if you just give us your credit card number and a backup credit card number, we'll get you tickets and send them your way as soon as we can charge your card.
Oh, great. How about if I just give you my password and then you can just use that?
Yeah. Well, if you got a seed phrase, we could just go with that.
Yeah.
That's
seed
even better. Yeah, that's even better. Then you can like reset all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then I can reset it for you. I can get you right back on the right track. I can clear those transactions that got lost in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. We'll get it taken care of.
Yeah.
And thank you for calling Microsoft.
Awesome.
Cool. We're good. You're back with us. We're all right.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that.
That's quite okay, man. Like quite okay. It's like we always like to really stress very, very much. Like we said when we tell you can leave when you want. Like we understand people. We have real lives. Like everybody has real lives, man. It's not.
Yes.
Even if this show was a fully sponsored, multi-million-dollar conglomerate, I would still be quite okay with somebody having to answer their phone and deal with something and do real life shit, man. I really would.
Yeah. Internet is also real life, though.
It is. It's true. True that. TP popped up. Have you got a question for Mr. jonCates? You got a comment? Something you want to drop for us? Haven't heard from you in a bit.
Hello. I came up to say hello and also to say hello to John.
Hey. Awesome.
I had to come up and just start talking about the Cowboys and Indians that nobody wants to say the word. Just kidding.
There you go.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's all good. It speaks for itself. I did want to say, actually, there's 2 things I wanted to say. One, of course, craft work. Of course, I've done some TP5, which is my TP Indigenous Futurism with craft work. So wicked.
Mm-hmm.
You can't sell me on the country. I'm a Gen X punk rock. Sorry, no sale.
Nice.
Can't do it. Beyonce, I was like mildly tempted, but I can't. I'm so sorry.
I was gonna say, are you rocking that Beyonce album? Because
There's no way, dude.
you're not gonna catch me listening to that. Not happening. I'm
No
on your
shame.
side on this.
No shame. No shame. But I did want to say, John. John's included me in some of the events for Glitchart, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to say the story because this is really interesting. The whole you shared something really beautiful there about your dad, and I wanted to share something that was similar but different. Um, and that was my introduction to cowboys didn't come from my. So I'm from the north of Canada, but it didn't come from the Americanized version of cowboys and those and that whole area. But I actually started watching Asian, a lot of the Akira Kurosawa subtitled stuff, and Yojimbo, and that led me. And I watched them with my dad as well, and I was a young teenager, and so I'm kind of tied to that. And I got really, really into that. Was my introduction to spaghetti westerns and Lee Van Cleef and stuff, right? So that to me is like something that's really tied to my father as well. But it came from he would watch. Nobody else would watch subtitled films with me, and I've had this love of subtitle films for since I was a teenager for a long time. That was a long time. Again, remember I just said I'm Gen X, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I just think it's amazing that we have this bond through some of this media, right? That's
Yeah.
it's just this strong thread and backbone of because I do teepees and it's not a pushback against, it's not. It's I don't even think about cowboys and Indians in that story. It's just not my story. It's not. I'm not interested in that. I'm into space, so it's just not my story. But still, it's that whole kind of surrealism that aspect of the surrealism that was part of that genre. Some incredible. I'm sure you've seen them all. We're both in film, but yeah, there's some of that surrealism. I think we take that into it, and I certainly see some of that in the work that you do, and I'm curious about that aspect. When we talk about kind of industrialization and we talk about surrealism, is that something that you think that you're trying to convey in any of the work that you're doing?
Well, those are great questions, and I super appreciate it. Also, just like hello, 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 and so good to talk with you here right now. And your work is so beautiful and so inspiring, and I feel very blessed and fortunate to be able to know you and to collect your work and be part of that journey with you.
Woohoo.
I
uh, yeah.
Go ahead.
So, okay, surrealism and in the Western, like, so in this genre, there's also the weird Western or psychedelic Western, like Westerns that are supposed to be more surrealist, like more dream space, and some of those are super inspiring. I guess what's maybe a little strange to say is that I am skeptical oftentimes when when artists use a specific historical moment. Now it sounds weird to say it because like I'm doing it myself, but like surrealism is really of a certain era. And now it's codified and kind of like if you want to do surrealism, you can do it, but it means something real different now than what it did then. And I guess that's always true. I guess that's like part of my process as well. Like think about what glitch western means today, as opposed to like what those westerns I have the love hate relationship to meant back then. If does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
There's,
Mm-hmm.
and it's different. Like what you're doing, and like I was thinking about uh like I don't know which one it is, and where Clint Eastwood paints the town red. Like that's really. Do you remember that one? The whole town is
Oh.
the whole town is
Oh.
murdered, and the whole town they pretend to be dead or something. It's just this whole surrealism. It's like
Oh.
this yeah. It
Uh-huh.
is. It's one of the most impactful shows, films that I've seen when I was a young person, aside from other stuff. But that was completely surreal. And
Oh,
the whole
yeah.
remember
Uh-huh.
that one?
High Plains Drifter. Yeah, High Plains
Yeah,
Drifter. Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Thank
Uh-huh.
you, God.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but imagine we take that, and so yeah, people are getting AI surreal, or it's a totally
Yeah.
or techie surreal, but that's not the same thing. There's the surrealism that's kind of like um Blue Velvet surreal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Like a meaner, like a sometimes a cruel meanness to it also.
Yeah, like life, death,
Uh,
like that walking that edge between life and death, and what's real and what's not real, surreal.
yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Like
Right?
a sharper edge to the surrealist. Not just like, oh, isn't this weird and dreamlike, but like no, like the blade is like a little bit sharpened and cuts a little deeper type of surrealism, right?
Yeah, and I think that
Uh-huh.
whole Western genre is like that because remember, it was you know everything was like how are we living, and it was a live
Uh-huh.
or die kind of mode, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
everything was. We don't have water. We don't. We don't have food. We live in a desert.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, okay, yeah. What's interesting too, we can speak about is like those are settler problems. Like those are settler colonial imperialist problems. Like, how do I survive in this landscape I'm not from? Is a settler problem. It's not an indigenous problem because indigenous peoples and nations have kinship with places for thousands of years. So, but what you get is this like settler mentality about like it's kill or be killed. It's like live or die, and because these settlers are aliens. They are not from. They have arrived, and it's not their place that they're in. So they're trying to, and also then there's like the inherent violence of it too. So it's like this kind of, and, as an American, the violence is part of the daily life. It's in the culture on so many different levels. So yeah, I think it's super fascinating.
Definitely is.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's like it's a violent type of, um, live or die is a real violent is a form of violence. Like that attitude is a form of violence. Live or die.
So when you put the skulls in, what does that relate to the live or die of that? See, because to me, it's this kind of mixed genre, right? Like I'm looking at the
Mm-hmm.
skulls, and I'm just still thinking about like the skulls on the buildings. That's the whole Western mentality as well. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
this is the end product of that kind of
Mm-hmm.
moment, right? They had them everywhere.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, like a death's head. Like death lives here.
We survived. It's day
Mm-hmm.
by day.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. 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 Super fascinating, right? I just what I'm into is try to figure it out, for myself, and where do I stand in it? Like, what does it mean to me, and what's my relationship to it?
So one of the things you said earlier, you were being asked about was the different media that you're using. So I just wanted to know, do you ever feel compelled to try? Like, see, for me, I have like teepees in the
Mm-hmm.
future, teepees in the past, teepees glitching, teepees
Mm-hmm.
photography, teepees in
Mm-hmm.
film. I have teepees in 1950s 8 millimeter film that I did, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
so I'm like, teepees could go anywhere and do anything. But do you
Yeah,
feel
they can.
like, and they do.
Yeah.
So, but like, do you feel like you would like to explore other genres aside from like, or do you feel satiated? How's that, cowboy?
I love it. Yeah, I do. I think so. Yeah. I feel like this is where I need to be right now. Yeah.
Now we're all going to be watching and waiting.
Uh-huh.
20 years down the road, John's going to be doing Beyonce glitch, and we're going to, well, there it is. There's the
there's the
right.
Beyonce.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like also the fact is that living here outside of the cultures that I grew up in, my status here is it's official. Like I'm a registered alien here. Like literally, I have my registered alien card. But I'm also an alien. Like
there you go, Bits. He is green.
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, but I'm like a alien. I'm a permanent outsider, like Wago-Oren, like person from outside, and that's permanent. That won't ever change. So there's something about that which like I'm processing in my life and in my art also. So I'm sure that sometimes that comes in more than other times, but it comes in through the lens of all of my experience, really.
It's kind of weird. I've been sitting here for the last few minutes, and then I kind of forgot that we were on the night train. I seriously just thought I was hanging out listening to bass. I love it when that fucking happens.
Yeah.
Great questions, TP. Appreciate that very much. I just kind of, I was just kind of thinking as we were chatting here. Um, have you, TP or John, have you guys so maybe not so much John, but have you seen the project? There's a group in Calgary that has been taking old westerns and revoicing them and switching them around to give them more of a proper color.
Oh
As a,
no.
it's fucking very cool. It's very cool. They brought up a very good point. I'll say that the cowboys and Indians genre, that it would be the teepee's burning down and then the white man's going to come and save them all or whatever crap was in there. So now they're taking them and overdubbing them and turning them into what history was more like, which is kind of cool, right? Like they're actually taking a.
So they're giving it the Karate Kid treatment.
Is it satire or
No,
like I want to laugh, but am
yeah,
I not supposed to laugh? Like, oh no.
yes, yeah, no, they're definitely they're definitely doing it from a comedic thing, 100%. Like they
Oh,
want that.
that's good. Phew.
Yeah,
That's
but
good. That's interesting. Could you put that somewhere, like maybe in your bubble,
yeah,
if you have the name of it?
I'll Google it. It's yeah, I'll Google it right now and I'll make a tweet out of it and I'll get it up there for you. It's very cool. I was very very happy with. Well, the one thing that was one of the very first things in one of the first interviews I saw with them, they're like, did you know that Indians weren't even like played by Indians, right? Like which
Most of them were Italians.
is that true?
Oh yeah, that's
A lot.
absolutely true.
Yeah, a lot. Uh-huh.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's what I learned today. It wasn't me. I wasn't in there.
Like the most famous one that was like the commercial of the Indian in the trash on the side of the road, whatever. It was like an 80s 90s commercial, and he was basically known as the most famous Indian kind of thing.
I
It was an Italian.
I do remember that commercial. Treaty said
Mm-hmm.
it's just while I'm trying to create a tweet. If you wanted to the making.
I'll go back to. Did you hear my question when I think you had just picked up the phone?
Oh, sorry.
And we were talking about early film, and Malicious Sheep had asked you if you'd use some of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to look up whether or not, because I thought a trip to the moon had a train in it as well. So I was trying to look it up, and I couldn't find any references to a
I
train
don't think so.
in it.
Rockets in A Trip to the Moon.
But in that, I was doing some quick Wikipedia in there, and
Mm-hmm.
in that, the first kinestoscope,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to say it,
Yep.
was of a horse.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, have you ever used early, that early piece of pre-film, I guess.
Yeah.
In earpieces.
Influenced by and inspired by, surely. However, so what you're referring to is Edward Muybridge doing motion studies of horse running, and the horse running photographs, 24 photographs to document like 1 second of a horse running to prove or disprove a wager, a gamble that Leland Stanford had made, that at some point in time, all the horses' feet were going to be off the ground. And so Muybridge was hired by Stanford to do these photographs to prove or disprove this fact, which eventually was proven that there is a moment where the horse is all the feet of the horse are off the ground. And that was a radical new technology to do that, to accomplish that. And like you said, it's pre-cinema, but it anticipates motion picture because it's 24 frames per second to capture movement of a horse.
Yes. That is why I don't argue with people smarter than me.
Well,
But okay. So, but you have used that as inspiration in other pieces.
Not as inspiration, yeah, or definitely influence, but not directly. I'm real careful to not sample from that one directly because that's one that people do sample from a lot. And yeah, sometimes I want to do something that's real identifiable. So sometimes I want to use some kind of icon, like a cowboy hat, that's very identifiable. But other times I want to make sure that I'm working with materials that haven't really been used before in the way that I'm using them.
Got it. You don't want to remix Ice Ice Baby because it's already been remixed from
yeah
from Queen and Bowie and yeah,
like that.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
I was going to say, Willie, I don't think Queen and Bowie remixed Ice Ice Baby.
But
no. They won that lawsuit. Queen and Bowie won that lawsuit.
Okay, sorry. So I did pin up at the top there. I found the quickest thing that I could find that involved what we were talking about there, TP. It's up at the top. It's a global news thing, but I think it has the link to the society, the from the Treaty 7 Cultural Society. So you can probably dig around from there to find a little bit more information on it. That was great. I fucking thought it was absolutely brilliant. Made me laugh. It was enjoyable.
Cool. Okay, yeah, just saying thanks. Yeah, okay, go ahead. I've already got it saved. Awesome. I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah, for sure. But please do. Yeah, you have a microphone, so please don't hesitate to jump in the conversation wherever you see fitting, and that goes for everybody. But you all know that. Hash popped up. What's going on, Hash? How are you tonight, my man? You got a question, comment? Just wanted to say hey.
Hey, always just want to say hey, especially when we're talking about horses. But yeah, really enjoyable conversation. Honestly, you know what? So I'm gonna go into some other stuff, but something I've been tripping out on lately is like the technology we had, because someone mentioned they're bringing the horse to a bar. If you get drunk, is that not self-driving technology? Like, and it knows where you live.
Yeah.
Okay,
actually, yeah, that's really true.
You can absolutely get a DUI on a horse, though.
Yeah,
if you're drunk,
it's bullshit, but you can.
Yeah, but your point is a really good point. And actually, we may be trying to head back in that kind of direction where because with AI, self-driving technology, etc., like the fact is that the vehicle has agency. It's not the same agency. It's not an animal or human agency. It's non-human agency. But yeah, similar. the horse does know where you live. The horse knows where the horse lives. So the horse can also go home. It's very true.
I saw a video of like a drunk ass Amish dude, or maybe he was just asleep. I don't know. He was passed out, so I don't know what was going on. I just assumed he was drunk with my brain. And like it was like the cop trying to pull over his wagon, and he was passed out, and the horses are just trotting along like, dog, we know where we're going. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, dude, like we think we've gone so far forward, but some of these things were just actually amazing solutions to situations, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's almost like the AI self-driving system is trying to replicate, or simulate what used to be possible.
Yep. And honestly, to take that even further in a weird way, one of the things that people say like donkeys are so stubborn is because a donkey won't work itself to exhaustion or death, where horses will. So people were just like, oh, this thing's going to stop. And it's like, that's just an amazingly good safety shutoff feature in a donkey. It's like, nah, fuck this. I don't care. This is unhealthy for me. I'm not going to do this. And don't get me wrong, personality-wise, they might be a little more stubborn also. But just generally speaking, that's kind of why they got that bad rap. And it's like, that's such an amazingly awesome. It's like a low oil turnoff feature in a generator or something. You know, it's like, dude, that shit's amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the big takeaway here is that where self-driving car technology is today is a horse and a donkey are a lot smarter than a self-driving car, and a car is a lot more lethal to others.
Those facts right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if self-driving technology surpasses the brain knowledge of a horse, should we then change its nomenclature to horse driving technology? We already have horsepower. Should we go to horse driving?
Sounds very American. Let's do it.
Or should we call it metric ton driving?
Yeah. That's funny. I mean, there's a lot of stories like this about the transition between different technologies. So, like, for instance, the fact is, if y'all remember that cars, used to have these. Some cars had these horses, little sculpture of a horse on the front of the hood of the car. Y'all remember that little tiny little horse, like a Mustang,
Mustang.
But like not just in the name, but a little metal horse's head, like on the front of the car.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty cool.
A lot of car names come from horse names.
Mostly
Pinto, Mustang. Now I'm trying to recollect all of them.
That's so fucking many.
Willie, you're just making shit up now.
No, you're on. I mean, John's on to something there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people forget about the Model T horse.
Yeah, or the fact that these were like automobiles were also called horseless carriages. Like the fact the fact that the horse wasn't there was like the name of the thing. Like horseless carriage. This is a carriage that can drive without a horse. Anyhow, yeah, I think it's important for us to sort of check about like how we get wrapped up in the newness of new technologies, and they are in fact new. They do in fact present new glitches, new opportunities, new possibilities, new harm, but they also are revisions of past technologies or simulations of older systems.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think people need to get back in touch with the horse and the donkey. Whatever technology.
I like this idea about the donkey being like a survivor and like having this like survival.
I got really into donkeys for a while and started researching them, and I was like, why did they get such a bad rap? And it's like, dude, they're actually pretty sick. Like the more you look into them, donkeys are hella good.
Well, you look at how many folks have donkeys, like on acreages and farms. They have donkeys as like protection for things, right? Because a donkey will go fucking buck wild on a lot of different stuff, like
Oh yeah.
Like there's a lot of them
smart creatures. Yeah, they're really cool.
Oh, Hang on, I gotta pull over. My donkey light came on.
And I think they're a lot like hardier in like what they eat and stuff too. Like they're kind of like on the way to a goat almost, if you will, you know?
Oh wow, yeah,
Like not
wild.
but just like horses are very like high maintenance in comparison. So, donkeys like, kind of and nothing against horses, because we just had a great conversation about horses and stuff. It's just a trip looking into that stuff and being like, wow, it's just a safety shutoff feature. They just like, they won't work themselves to death, whereas, horses notoriously will let themselves work to exhaustion. It's like, that's a very useful feature.
Yeah, true. That's true. Yeah.
And I mean, nature in general, a lot of animals have that feature. I guess not horses, but nature, humans are the worst for that shit. Working ourselves into the ground and not paying attention when the light comes on. We need to be a little more donkey.
Yeah, I think pandemic has helped people to have better boundaries, though.
You think so? I think that can go either way. But yeah, very
maybe.
Good. I agree with
you. Yeah, it broke down a lot of the social office norms to where now you're at home and now you're on call 24 hours a day, even though you're not getting paid.
That's the bad version. That's the bad version. Yeah.
It can definitely go both ways.
Yeah, the one I was thinking of was people like, oh, this is too much for me, or I got to change this direction in my life because, yeah.
No, that's.
Well, I think the term burnout really kind of started to rear its head right around the same time. Maybe slightly before, but at the same time, COVID. So we all kind of like started looking like, yeah, you know what? I am fucking burnt the fuck out. Fuck this. And then COVID hit. We're like, yeah, screw you. So I think it might be like a culmination of those of the two kind of coming together.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely brought new vision to the world as a whole. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like
so.
Finally, people wash their hands, right? Like all these times.
It's wild. So wild.
What do you mean?
Wild.
Up until that, it was voodoo.
So wild. Yeah, this is how you wash your hands. Wild.
It's very funny at work. A good majority of my life, especially when I was DJing and I was doing a lot of live shows and big venues and stuff like that. I've always been a person who doesn't really like to touch handles, and it's not that I'm a big, huge germaphobe or anything. It's just that I've looked at human beings and I've seen how fucking disgusting we are. I've watched people literally sneeze into their hand and then open a doorknob at event, and stuff like that, right? And where was I going with this story? I'm not a germaphobe, but yeah, a buddy at work the other day had noticed that I was going back out into the shop and I used my coverall sleeve to open up the door, and he goes, "Oh, geez, really? COVID's over and blah blah blah." And I'm like, I turned and I looked at him and I'm like, I just watched so and so take a whiz in the bathroom and walk out without washing his hands and touch 3 doorknobs on his way out. I said, I don't want to fucking touch these doorknobs. There's no shit about it, man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I know he was with Susie last night. She's a skank.
Jesus.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, that makes him a skank too. Let's be fair.
Right? I mean, that's the way of saying it without saying
it. Those days of back in the day when when she was a skank, he was a skank, or she was a skank, but he was a stud. That's wrong now. Everybody skanks.
Now everyone is a skank.
Yeah, you're all dirty. Y'all are dirty.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool.
Maybe on that note, that might be where I tip my hat to y'all and say.
Okay, let me get back to horses for a real quick second before you bounce out.
Okay.
So we were talking about the horses and being smarter than driving cars, and so I was like, all right, the Derby's this weekend. So the Kentucky Derby's this weekend. I'm like, what a better conversation that we could have had today than talking to you about horses and whatnot, and your beautiful art.
Thank you.
And one of the horses in the lineup is named Catalytic. If that doesn't bring it full circle, I don't know what does.
There you go. And that's a winner right there.
At 30-1.
Not financial advice. Not financial advice.
That's where my money's going to be, not financial advice.
Unless somebody steals it. Unless somebody steals.
Oh, damn it! You know what? He's going to be scratched last minute for sure.
That was our catalytic converter thief joke. So thank you.
Oh shit. Cool. Yeah, John, if you want to jump out on the skank thing, we're okay with that.
Okay, cool. All right.
Natural.
Well, it's been great talking with y'all. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Like super, super appreciate this. Like I said, before horse trading, I didn't know who you were, and then I knew you kind of existed, and then I started looking at your stuff. Man, this dude's cool. And then we invited you on, and this past week I've really been trying to dig deep into your stuff, and get a feeling for you. And I am so happy you have come on here and put a voice to the beautiful pieces of art that you've created, with a little bit of a Beyonce background playing in the background.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, if you have just another minute, I did have a question that I wanted to ask while I was out at baseball, and when you were talking about when you were at school and going to school for art and all that, I just kind of wanted to know, like, what was your like specialty, like what part of art in all of that, like, did you study, and were you specialized, like, was it 19th century, was it the Impression era, was it what was your study there?
Right. So I was born in 73, and when I was going to college, university, the digital art or net art, net.art, internet art was also beginning to really happen on internet. And that, like I said, I already had background in compute, and I was very excited about internet art, digital art right away. And then when I went to get my master's degree in Austria in Krems, which is a place in the Wachhaus, it's like a valley region, and I went to school there, studied with Oliver Grau. He created a program for media art histories, and he came from Berlin, he came from Germany, he went to Austria, and he started this media art histories program. So what I'm saying is, like, new technologies were always really the heart of what I was doing. And then when I went to grad school, it was about looking back at where all of it came from, and learning where it all came from was what I did in grad school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't let you go without asking that question. That's super interesting.
Yeah, Oliver Grau founded this program in Media Art Histories. I'm literally the first person to graduate from it, and his background is more traditional art history, but that's what he was trained in Germany. But then he took it and applied everything to media art, to digital art, and was perfect for me because I got that experience in Austria, which is I literally studied in an active Catholic monastery that was one of the places in this active Catholic monastery called Gertweg in Austria is one of the places where the Reich showed up, the Nazis showed up at the monastery, and they said, "Show us your library, because we're going to, take all these books out in the courtyard and burn them." And the monastery said, "Oh, we don't have one." And the Nazis looked around and inspected and found no library because the monks had sealed it shut just before the Reich arrived. So then at the fall of the Reich, the monastery was eventually able to reopen the library, the archive, and it had maintained thousands of years of materials that the Nazis would have destroyed. And I literally got to go there in that place, in those rooms that had been sealed shut, and touch those books made of lambskin, and just an amazing place to study.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why?
That's awesome.
That's so wild, man.
So
Yeah.
is that kind of you said you're still teaching in Taiwan?
Yeah. But very
kind of
different.
like along the same lines, or?
No, it's really like Web3 digital art, and teaching people about where it comes from, but also how to practice it today. So like onboarding folks to Tezos mostly, because it is a very rapid way for folks to get started. Definitely not the only way, but especially with layer twos now, Zora, for instance, very good way for folks to just get started. But I've onboarded people to Object and Tezos, and now people are making their art there. And those are adults, so that's cool because it's very different. Like I can build relationships with people who are already artists practicing their art, or like already adults choosing to study with me, instead of what I used to do in art academia, where I would teach like required courses that students like had to take. So it's just very different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you do you speak, is it Cantonese in Taiwan, or?
No, it's Mandarin. It's traditional Mandarin. Is the official language, but there's also a lot of English that's spoken, because Taiwanese people very regularly are learning English from a very young age. And then also there's Japanese, and which is spoken. There's also a very strong and successful effort for indigenous languages, for the indigenous nations of Taiwan. So the language culture in Taiwan is officially traditional Mandarin, which is a different form of Mandarin than what is in the PRC, the People's Republic of China. Because People's Republic of China is a communist state, and what they did in their communist revolution is that they created what they call the simplified Chinese. They destroyed certain parts of the culture, and that is preserved and maintained, and then also brought into the present and future here in Taiwan.
So do you speak Mandarin, or do you just teach in English, because most of them know English?
Yeah, I have to teach in English. I can't teach in Mandarin. My Mandarin skills are very small, and my learning is very slow. Like I said, I'm an old skull, like across the 50-year mark recently. So I'm learning. I go to school for Mandarin, my Mandarin classes twice a week. But it's hard. It's hard. Tough going. So I don't teach in. I have to teach in English. Yeah.
At least you look the part of somebody where they look at you and go, okay, well, we know this guy. We got to give him a little bit of stretch.
Cut this guy some slack. Yeah.
It's like when I go to Italy with my family. It's like when I go with my brother-in-law. He's as white German as they come. Like, and I go up to a street vendor, and I try to stumble through, asking for stuff, and then they tell me the total really quick, and I'm like, I didn't get it, and like I keep asking again, and then they like shove me aside, and then they look at my brother-in-law behind me, and they go, "What would you like to get?" And it's like, fuck, did he just fucking speak English to you?
Then you walk away and go, "Did I just pay $40 for a fucking chocolate covered waffle? What the fuck just happened here?"
But yeah,
sorry, that was just me.
But John Gates rolling out with a cowboy hat and a beard, they're like, well, this guy, we got to give him some slack here.
They are. We got to give this guy extra room,
And not just because he's wearing a cowboy hat. Cool, man. Well, we're gonna we're going to kick around here for another few minutes and let the train cool down. You can bounce out of here, my man. And again, we appreciate you very much. I feel very privileged to have talked to you tonight and to gotten to know you a little bit better. It brings a new level, like I said, a new level to your works when I look at them now, and I appreciate it very much. Anytime that we can help you out, or if you can use our platform for something, or you want to promote something, or just pop in and say hi, don't hesitate. We would love to have you back chatting about anything you want, even if it's just to pop in and say, I'm doing this drop, pay money.
I mean,
Awesome.
I'd love to go into, just your thoughts alone about, what's going on with Taiwan and mainland China and
Uh-huh.
everything that's going on
Yeah.
between those two, and the who's got power and who's what, but that's
Yeah.
for a whole nother time.
That's a
But yeah,
whole
I
nother show. Yeah.
definitely appreciate you popping in and hanging out with us all night or all morning for you. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I
it was
appreciate
great.
y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing what you do. It's
Awesome. Okay.
sure.
All right, cool. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, let's wait for him to be gone, then we can talk bad about him and say what the bad points were. Oh shit, he's still here. Good stuff. Oh, he's gone now. Fuck it. Oh, wonderful.
It's still recorded.
And I applaud that. Yeah, that's right. I was gonna do some fucking applause here, but I don't know where it went. Oh, that's interesting. My iPad doesn't even want to play anymore for some fucked up reason, but that's okay. Yeah, that was a great conversation. I was so happy for that. Like, I seriously, jonCates was definitely one of the guests where I fucking knew nothing. Like, I horse trading, right, and glitch, and then started looking into his stuff, and it was one of those really exciting spaces where I was very, very super ultra nervous, yet very excited to come in here and do this tonight and hang out with them. And I'm so happy we did. I really like it when we come into these spaces and the artist comes in with the same casual and, there's no nervousness about it. Well, at least not on his part. Probably I was nervous. Goddamn jonCates, for Christ's sakes.